Get 15% off a set of BrakeMess Select, Select Pro, or Import Direct brake pads and 2 rotors now at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly.
You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Ooh, a spicy question. I
because
love
the
it.
writing is sort of everything, right? Like you kind of can fix plot holes, but if the writing is
so some readers love that, and some readers are like, "But I wanted more of this." So it's kind of a gamble.
Hello and welcome back to the Right and Wrong podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by an Instagram and TikTok content creator, The Chamber of Secret Books, who has recently published her brand new debut novel, I'll Look For You Everywhere. It's Cameron Capello. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. Let's jump right in with the new book, your debut novel, I'll Look For You Everywhere. It's out right now. Tell us a little bit about the story.
Yeah, so I'll Look For You Everywhere is I like to describe it as an intoxicating love story set in Italy. It's between a girl who comes home for her sister's wedding, and lo and behold, her best friend's older brother, who hasn't come home in 7 years, also is there for the wedding. And obviously, 7 years, lots of things change. So immediately there's an attraction between one another, but obviously there are secrets that are keeping them apart. And will it destroy their relationship? I don't know. I guess you have to read it. So that is my summary.
We'll have to find out.
Yes.
So, I mean, you're on TikTok. What are, if you were to list the kind of main romance tropes, what are the main tropes in this?
Okay, main tropes, definitely best friends, older brother, forbidden romance. What else? Oh, there's a wound cleaning trope in here because, like, my roots go to fantasy romance. So,
Okay.
like, even though it didn't like logistically make sense to do like this whole wound cleaning like it was Outlander, I was like, no, I need to have it somewhere. So that's definitely in there. And yeah, there's just a lot of angst, a lot of tension. But yeah, I would say those are the main 3 tropes.
Okay, cool. It's always good to know because, like, one of the, especially in like romance specifically as a genre now, a huge part of the marketing and especially on social media is like saying what the tropes are, because people nowadays will buy books based on the tropes, which I get. It's a cool thing to do, cool way to do things. But let's go back to the kind of conception of this story. How long have you been working on this? When did you first start writing I'll Look For You Everywhere?
So I started writing it back in 2020. So it took me 3 years to like finally get it done. I always say this, but this story was never meant for anyone's eyes but mine. Like I had started it before TikTok, and it was just something to sort of do because it was COVID during college. I was bored, and I was like trying to process my own emotions. So it did candidly start off as almost a fan fiction of sorts for myself. And then it evolved into something completely different, and I am no longer associated with the main character. But yeah, so 3 years in total, which is so incredibly long when I talk to other debut authors who take 2 months to write a book.
I mean, there's a huge range. I mean, 2 months is incredibly fast to write a novel. I think most authors I know, like the average will be around a year potentially more. But I know people who have been writing novels, like one novel for like 20 years and then finally got that novel published. So there is a huge variance. Equally, I've spoken to authors who have written a novel in like 2 weeks. So
like, that's insane. Yeah.
yeah. It's like you need to go outside. Am I right in thinking that, so obviously you'd written this before TikTok, but you have built like a big TikTok following. Am I right in thinking that you posted excerpts of the novel onto TikTok to kind of, I don't know, was that to like get some kind of feedback on it, or was it more just like you wanted to see, how people would react to it? So
I originally on TikTok was just posting these like 30-second, I call them daydreams, or they're just daydreams that I had on my notes app. And that's how that started. And then when more people were viewing my TikToks, they were asking for something like longer. And if I was writing anything in my spare time, and I was very hesitant at first to bring it up because like I said before, the content that I was making on TikTok, was focused on fantasy romance. So this was completely different. So I just decided, at first to like test it out, see how people are responding to it. If this Italian summer contemporary romance is something that my audience, who I know loves like a battle scene, if they would like it. And they did, because everyone's so sweet. And so I just kept posting more excerpts, and then it got me excited to like keep writing, and it motivated me definitely to finish it up and share it with the people who are the reason why I finished it in the first place.
Wow. I mean, it's scary enough as a writer to kind of show your writing to like on like a personal level to like a few friends or family or other writers. The idea that you're kind of sending this out to, and you have hundreds of thousands of followers, that you're sending it out to all these people who you don't know, terrifying. Was it scary, once you put that out and you'll presumably see notifications of like people have commented on it? Was it a scary thing to jump into those comments to see what people were saying?
By far, it was the most scary videos I've ever posted on TikTok. It's very like vulnerable to share your writing. Before I posted it on TikTok, absolutely no one had ever read anything I've written. So then to immediately jump into that was bonkers. But I have been blessed with such a nice community of readers who were just so generous and so forgiving. I had, my God, the amount of spelling errors that were there that I did not see that now I look back on. Like, no one said anything. They just let me be. Mm-hmm. So it just, it was such a positive experience that I just kept going with it. Yeah. But definitely scary at first.
Yeah. It sounds like that kind of the feedback you got from it, the positivity, as you say, it sounds like that's part of the reason that this novel actually like got over the line and that you did kind of find the drive to finish it.
100%. Because you have no idea if you're a good writer. Like, I just had no concept if what I was doing was like even like worth being published at all. So then to receive that like confirmation from them it was like life-changing. Yeah, it was great.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that you'd been working on the novel for some years. Was it sort of written in pieces, or did you have like a plan and you were working through it chronologically?
So there was no plan. And now as I write my second novel, there is a plan, because the way I was writing was so chaotic. It was basically just, like a stream of consciousness, like whatever felt natural to write next, I would write it. So it did happen chronologically. And then sometimes I would immediately like get an idea for a scene. So I would write that and then figure out later where I would stick it in. But yeah, for the most part, it was chronologically, and yeah, it was really based off my time in Italy, and spending summer with my family in Chivasso and Alassio, which is actually where I am currently. So I was just so inspired by this like lovely, beautiful place, and I was like, this is the perfect setting for a romance novel. Like, it's just dripping in romance. Like, and why is no one writing it? So I was like, I'll write it.
Okay, and then it just all kind of unfolded and grew out of that sort of one idea. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have guessed that you were already working on something new. Is it going from like chaotically just kind of writing and making it up as you go? Does it feel like a very different process? Is it a bit more calm, having a plan, having everything mapped out?
Yes and no. I don't know if I do well with a schedule. I don't know. There's something, it feels like inhibiting if I already have it planned out. I'm like, damn, like what if I don't want to do this even though I wrote it? So it's strange. I think it helps with the overall plot, like the arc, to know. Because, like, when I first wrote I'll Look For You Everywhere, like, I did not know how it was going to end either. So writing this book, it is nice to have thought that through. And it makes the other, like, important scenes, I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like it relates better to the ending. Like, I'm able to find my way to the end much clearer than I was for I'll Look For You Everywhere. That being said, I definitely sometimes go off the rails and just completely miss the mark of what was in the schedule. Because I'm like, this feels right. I'm very much a mood writer. So I'm like, no, this, like, we need this scene now. Like, this has to happen. So it's a mixture of both. And I'm happy with it. Yeah.
It's about finding the balance, right? It's about finding what works for you. And I think especially with sometimes, and I've spoken to lots of authors who similar kind of approach to this, and they'll say, yeah, I'll do a plan, but I'm so willing to like go off the plan. And it's like, maybe that means I have to, make some deviations and I'll come back to the plan. But sometimes you kind of learn what a character would do, and it's so obvious that the character wouldn't do what you'd originally planned them to do, that you just can't, you have to go off course at that point.
Exactly. That's a very, very perfect way to put it.
So changing course a little bit here, wanted to ask about your agent, who is Lauren, is it Spieler, as they pronounce it?
Yeah.
At Folio Literary. Did you go on submission with your novel, or was it a situation where Lauren reached out to you?
Get 15% off a set of Brake Best Select, Select Pro, or Import Direct brake pads and 2 rotors now at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
So it's pretty unconventional what happened, but actually, my editor from Pan Macmillan is the first person to reach out to me and wanted to read the book. And it was so serendipitous because I happened to be in London for 3 days, and that's exactly when she reached out to me. So we met for coffee and it was crazy. And then I sent her some pages. She was like, I'm very into this. I'm going to send this to my team. And then they put in an offer. So at that point, I did not have an agent. I was just freeballing it. I had no idea what I was doing. So then luckily, because of TikTok, I have other author friends. And I was explaining, actually, I was on her podcast. Her name is Betty. And she wrote a book called One Last Shot. It's also an Italian summer romance. And I was telling her, oh, this is this is what happened. And she's like, girl, you cannot go in without an agent. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I wanted to be independent. And she's like, no. So she connected me with her agent, who is Lauren. And I told Lauren the situation. I was like, sorry, this is so urgent and weird, but this is what's happening. And she was so lovely, so kind, and immediately took over. And I am forever indebted to her because she really saved me.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of like legal mumbo jumbo and like contract stuff, which is, you know, the agents are obviously there to like handle that for you, but it would be a lot to learn if you were trying to do it by yourself.
I don't know who I thought I was. Yeah. But yeah, she definitely did handle it because there were so many like things in the contract that I was like, what is that? Is that English? And she was like, yeah, it is. So yeah.
Okay, well, that's some good advice from your friend there as well. So am I right in thinking then you're in Italy at the moment, but you live in the US most of the time, but the deal was made in London?
So I moved to Italy. When did I move? In October. Yeah. I was originally based
Welcome to Europe.
Yes, love it here. I was originally based in New York, but we decided to make the move. I just like wasn't, you know, I'm very grateful that I grew up in New York, but I definitely needed a change. And I guess I was kind of inspired by my own book. I was like, why aren't I living their lives? So let me try. Because my whole family is Italian, so I am very lucky that the citizenship process was relatively easy for me because I already had the dual citizenship. So yeah, that now I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the book deal started with UK based Pam Macmillan, but is your agent
American?
In the US?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're really
global.
You're really running an international operation here.
Yeah.
Okay. Does it cause any like hiccups, like being in a different country from the publisher and your agent?
No, I actually love it because then I have an excuse to go to London. Because I was just in London a few weeks ago, and yeah, when anyone asks me, it's like, oh, I have to go for work. Like, you don't understand. And so I love it.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah. But for my agent, no, I don't have to go to the US. When the book is published in the US, maybe I'll have to go more, but I love traveling. So I kind of just use it as an excuse to see places. Yeah.
And I mean, from the US, it's like a much bigger trip to go to another country. When you're like in Italy, when you're in Europe, it's really like 2 hours, 3 hours to basically anywhere else in Europe.
It's glorious. It's pretty easy. I love it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So before the book was published, I'm going to guess did you know much about publishing or how the industry works?
Not a singular thing. I had no idea.
So was there any parts of the kind of process that was like particularly surprising or like challenging that you weren't expecting?
I guess I didn't realize how long everything takes.
Yeah.
And that can be frustrating because you have people like messaging you every day and like, when's your book coming out? When's your book coming out? And it's like sitting ready, you know, on your laptop, and you can't do anything because, you know, there's so many people involved in the publishing process. So that was one thing. Second thing is how much fun making the cover was, like being a part of that process. I definitely didn't make it, but being able to send my like inspiration photos, we were, sharing Pinterest boards, me and my editor Kinza. So it was a very like collaborative process to make the cover, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. So that was fun. And yeah, I'm trying to think. I still don't know a lot about publishing. I kind of
Thank God you got an agent.
Yeah, no, literally, because I know I'm a bit of like I don't want to know anything with like the most important things in life. So that's an issue of mine, and I need to work on that.
How did you find going through like the editorial parts? Because that can be like a painful process for some people.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that was the third thing I wanted to say. Okay. It was so much longer than what I had thought. So I sent her my original manuscript, and then she came back with her round of edits. And then from there, I go in with my edits to her edits, and then I send it. And then she edits that again. And then, so there's like 5 versions of I'll Look For You Everywhere floating in the ether. And I know some authors don't love revising, but I really did enjoy the process. One, because it took less thinking power from me, and I was just like making small corrections, but also it was so nice to see how someone else sees the characters. So I always thought of writing as a solitary thing, but being with my editor and seeing how her mind works and my mind works together was incredible. And she really, really like made it into the book that it is. So this time around writing my new book, I'm definitely more open to getting people's opinions. Cause you need it, it's such a important part of writing a book, I think, is sharing it with others.
Yeah. And having an outside perspective can be so like useful to just when you're often too close to something and you need someone who's further away to say like, oh, this thing doesn't make sense, but in your head it made sense because you have all the other knowledge that they don't have. So no, I mean, when it's great when an author and an editor really click, when they're really on that same wavelength, that editorial process shouldn't be like grating. It should be like a good process where you're both feeling good about this book is heading in a better direction than it was before.
100%. Yeah. And that's how I felt the entire time. So
amazing. I just got a couple more questions before we head over to the desert island. That is, I've looked at your TikTok, I've looked at your like Instagram stuff. So from all of that, what you're writing, what you're reading, it's safe to say you very much live in the romance space. Would you, in terms of like future writing or things like that, would you ever try some crossovers into like other genres?
That's a great question. I think romance will always be a subplot. Frankly, I can't write without romance, like, I'm like, what's the point of this? So I don't think there's a world in which I cannot write romance. That being said, I would love to experiment with, fantasy. I like historical fiction a lot. So yeah, I would say like also horror, I think a horror romance is kind of fun. So
I've heard that's on the way up at the moment, horror romance.
Well, I better get writing. Okay, great.
Quick, get on that trend.
But yeah, definitely open.
It's always going to be romance, but you're kind of like taking a look at other genres as like crossover kind of things. That's cool.
Exactly.
I like that. Yeah. Awesome. So we are about the time in the episode where I will ask you, Cameron, if you were stranded on a desert island with a single book, which book do you hope that it would be?
Okay. If I was stranded, it would have to be Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. I think I've never read something so beautiful before. And every time I reread it, there's, a new sentence or a new idea that I didn't pick up the last 400 times I read it. So I think that's really special. And yeah, I think I would never get bored with that book.
Well, I mean, it's a very powerful book. How many times do you think you've read it? Do you have an estimate?
maybe 5 or 6 times.
That's pretty good, and also healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Many more, and it would be almost unhealthy. But
Yeah.
there's I love to ask people who like really love a specific book about adaptations. There's is that the movie with Timothée Chalamet?
Yes.
As someone who loves the book, how do you feel about the movie?
I think Timothée Chalamet embodied Elio to a T. Am I as happy with Armie Hammer? No. But I think the director, Luca, I don't know how to say his last name, Guard. I'm going to butcher it. But the director of Call Me By Your Name really understood the vision. So it's got to be one of my top favorite adaptations. That and Normal People.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're so good.
Well, that's a sterling review from someone who is an avid fan of the novel. So,
Have you not seen it?
I've not seen it. No, I've not seen it. You know what? I'm always paranoid about any adaptation of anything because sometimes I'll watch one and I'm like, you ruined it. I hate it.
Oh, 100%.
I wish I'd never seen this. The Artemis Fowl. The Artemis Fowl is like the book of my childhood, and I was so excited for them to do a movie of it, and it like killed me inside watching that.
That's me with the Shadowhunters, like that whole universe. That was that was bad.
Well, they tried the movie for that too.
They tried everything. Yeah. They just could not get it.
It just never. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe in like a few years' time they'll try again once everyone's forgotten about those things. But who knows? Anyway, Call Me By Your Name, great choice. It is a classic. And thumbs up to the adaptation. Maybe I will check it out. Maybe I will dare to check out the adaptation for that.
Definitely.
Next up, I'd love to chat about TikTok and building an online audience, and also one of your favorite things to talk about, romance tropes. But that will be in the extended episode exclusive to my awesome Patreon subscribers. The real social faux pas.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, amazing. Well, that was fun to chat about, and also really great chatting with you about the book. Very exciting. The debut, it's out now. I'll look for you everywhere in all the usual places. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Cameron. It's been so cool chatting with you, hearing all about your experiences with writing and publishing, and a little bit about romance tropes at the end there. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was so much fun.
And for anyone listening, if you want to keep up with what Cameron is doing and see what she's doing, whether the filtered version on Instagram or the unfiltered version on TikTok, you can follow her on TikTok at Chamber of Secret Books and on Instagram at The Chamber of Secret Books. To support this podcast, like, follow and subscribe. Join the Patreon for extended ad-free episodes. And for more trope discussions, check out my other podcast, The Chosen Ones and Other Tropes. Thanks again to Cameron, and thanks to everyone listening. We will catch you on the next episode.